This is the USS Razorback Memorial Park across the river from downtown Little Rock. We have a World War II submarine moored here. She served in World War II, and then after the war we sold her to Turkey. And when the Turks decommissioned her, the state of Arkansas bought her and had her towed all the way up the Mississippi and the Arkansas River to downtown Little Rock. But this is a Mark 14 torpedo. It's the primary torpedo that our submarines used in World War II. At the beginning of the war, our torpedoes did not work. They had problems with their magnetic detonator. That it didn't work because the Earth's magnetic field is not constant around the globe. They also had problems with the contact exploder. It was built too fragile and tended to break when the torpedo hit the side of a ship, and it also ran at the wrong depth because of where the geniuses at the torpedo manufacturing place in Newport, Rhode Island placed the sensor for the depth regulator. All these problems did not get fixed until the middle of 1943. It's when we finally had good torpedoes, but by then we had lost many submarines, and many Japanese ships that should have been sunk were not sunk due to faulty torpedoes. We lost 52 submarines in World War II, some to depth charging, some to minefields, some to accidents, and some unknown. Could have been hit by their own Mark 14 torpedoes that could do what they called a circular run and come back and hit the submarine that fired it. And let's take a look at this monument here. Here's the scorecard for our submarines in World War II. They saved 504 downed airmen. The ships they sunk: one Japanese battleship, that was the Congo, 10 carriers, 14 cruisers, 44 destroyers, 28 submarines, 1,423 merchant ships. That was the biggest target that we were actually after in World War II, because if you destroyed the merchant marine for an island nation, you could starve them out. That's what the Germans tried to do with the British, and they failed, but the United States succeeded against Japan because we also had air superiority. It's quite impressive. And this is even though we did not have good torpedoes until the middle of 1943. The 52 submarines that we lost in World War II in order included some of the S-boats. Those are pre-World War II submarines. We had S-boats, then the Gato, and then the Balao, and then the Trench-class submarines in World War II. The Sea Lion was sunk at her moorings in the Philippines when the Japanese invaded the Philippines. So she was sunk pierside. Some of the other famous boats. The Wahoo was one of the most famous submarines we had in World War II. The commanding officer, Mush Morton. He was an outstanding sub-captain. The Harder was another one, Seawolf, Darter. The Darter ran aground off of Palawan Island, west of the Philippines. Her wreck is still there. We couldn't get her off the reef, so they blew it up. They shelled it, they set explosives, But the wreck of the USS Darter is still there to this day. The Tang is another famous submarine. You notice these are all named after fish or marine species. That's how our namings were for old submarines in World War II. They were named after fish. Like I said, we lost 52 out of 288 subs. 1 out of every 5. We lost 3,505 men. Each submarine had an average crew of 90 to 98 men. This is a plaque where this monument was dedicated in 1999. It's quite impressive. You see a torpedo has 2 counter-rotating propellers. And the reason why they're counter-rotating, because if you just had one propeller that rotated in one direction, the torque of the engine would cause the body of the submarine to spin in the opposite direction. So that's why all torpedoes have 2 counter-rotating. One turns to the left, one turns to the right. It cancels out the torque steer of the engine. And then you can see the depth control right there. That's what controls the depth. That little flap right there. Here's a plaque dedicated to the USS Snook. She confirmed 17 sunk ships, 7 damaged. She picked up 1 American pilot. These are Arkansas men that are native to the state of Arkansas who lost their lives on the 52 submarines that we lost in World War II. As we like to say, they're still on eternal patrol. These men were on the USS Snook. I'm sorry, this is the crew list of the USS Snook. She was lost at sea. And as they say, all submariners that died at sea are on eternal patrol. This is a map that shows where the Snook was lost right before the end of the war, April 8th, 1945. Almost at the end of the war. As you know, we dropped the atomic bombs on August 6th and August 9th, and Japan surrendered in September. The poor guys almost made it all the way through the war. They were sunk off of Hainan Island. Formosa is Taiwan today. The Philippines, but that's her approximate resting location right there. Again, the Mark 14 torpedo was our main weapon used by our submarines in the Pacific in World War II. We fired more than 7,800 of them. They're steam powered. This torpedo is actually steam powered. It has a small steam turbine in it that when it's fired, it burns fuel and compressed air to drive the 2 propellers in the back. That little hook on the front is how they rig the submarine into the ship, where they hang the rigging gear to lower it into the submarine to put it in the racks. One more glance at just how big that torpedo is. It's a 21-inch torpedo, if I remember correctly. The diameter. Well, it's a long one. It's long. It's almost like a miniature guided missile for underwater. It's amazing. It's a wonderful piece of engineering. It's just too bad it didn't work until 1943. This is the sign for the Arkansas Inland Maritime Museum. Unfortunately, the ship is closed today. But if you're ever in Little Rock or you're in Arkansas, this is what it costs to visit. They're on Facebook. When you come in, there's an anchor chain, a couple of anchors. That's an old style ship's anchor. And I'm not sure, but I think this anchor is from the USS Arkansas, which was a guided missile frigate cruiser. CGN-41. She was nuclear powered. That's what the N is for. Here are the two propellers for the submarine. She doesn't have her props on her, so she can't move under her own power. But there's her two propellers right there. Manganese bronze. Push that submarine through the water at about 20 knots. About 23 and a half, 24 miles per hour. Closer look at the propellers. They were taken off when she was in Turkey. We had actually sold this submarine to the Turkish Navy after after the Korean War. And when she was decommissioned, the state of Arkansas bought her and brought her here to Little Rock. How much does each one of these weigh? 2,700 pounds. Almost 2,800. 24.6 knots. It's about 28, 29 miles per hour. 1.3, 1.5 miles per hour is a knot, roughly. Just going off of memory. Don't quote me on that. And there she is, USS Razorback. Notice she's flying two flags. She has the United States flag and a Turkish flag on top. That's the two navies that she served under. And she has a different sail. That's the structure that you're looking at with the 394 on it. She did not have that sail in World War II. After World War II, many of our diesel boats went through what they called a guppy conversion. Guppy stands for Greater Underwater Propulsion Power Update. They took off the guns and everything that you would normally see on a World War II sub, and they put that streamlined sail on it to make it faster and more efficient underwater. Because all the older superstructures caused a lot of hydrodynamic drag underwater. And you see her periscope is sticking up right now. But like, unfortunately, can't get on the boat today. She's closed. Yeah, I was correct about that anchor. That was on the nuclear-powered ship, USS Arkansas. She circumnavigated the globe in 1984. Of course, being a nuclear ship, she didn't have to refuel. She only had to get food and toilet paper for the crew. You know, you can't go around the world without toilet paper. I can barely go around the neighborhood without toilet paper. Try going around the world.